Well, good morning, ladies, and good morning, chiropractors. I want to talk about SEO because I can tell you that very, very few chiropractors are getting SEO right. And I know that because very few chiropractors are doing SEO. And so if you are listening to this, it's probably because you're not. And if you are, it's probably being done wrong because if you're not putting 10, 15, 20 new patients every single month in your practice through your website, there's something wrong with the structure of it. And so what I want to go through is what are the most common sort of things that you guys see as issues with chiropractors SEO and their websites in general, and it and really, dive into this. And so, Allie, what is one of the things that you see as the biggest problems with chiropractors and their websites?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that chiropractors don't necessarily think about when it comes to SEO and their websites is that it's more than just the keywords that they have placed on their websites and the keywords that we're optimizing for with SEO. It's actually more of the technical side of things and the more unseen things that are in the back end matter, like the load times of your website, right? On mobile, how quickly are your links loading, your images loading? Different pages, how quickly do those load, right? Making sure all of your links actually work. That's a huge one, right? I mean, going through your website and making sure everything is actually accessible for everyone there. And then also making sure your URL structure makes sense, right? Not missing any meta tags and unoptimizing images.
And I can tell you that, one of the things that I see a lot from chiropractors is that they have the mentality that they want to tell people who they are, but they
Right.
don't focus on the lens of what is actually important, which is what a website is supposed to do. And Sydney, you were talking about this. And so so if I were to come to you as a client and ask you, what are the things I need to be thinking about with my website and to know if it is working or if it's not?
So we do want you to have a beautiful website that showcases your office and your personality, but it needs to be, so much more than that. We need to really educate your patients. We want to discuss, maybe all of these different topics, issues they're dealing with, tell them a little bit more about how we treat them in our office. And then really educate them and push them towards booking an appointment. We need to make it really easy for them to book an appointment directly on your website right there and then.
So when you say educating your patient and giving them the ability to book, let's take those one by one. So educating your patient, can you give me, kind of an example of the type of things that you would put into your website to be able to educate your patients or help to optimize it in that way?
Thinking about issues that you may commonly be seeing in your community. Are we seeing a lot of people with high stress? Are they unable to sleep? Educating them on a little bit more about how chiropractic actually helps the body and resets your nervous system, giving them a little bit more education on that side so they can understand, how you can actually help them there, and then making it really easy for them to book an appointment and learn more.
And I think that this is a great point because these are things that chiropractors want people to know in their community anyway. So if you want to be something other than the pain-based chiropractor in your area, having content that helps people to understand natural alternatives to,
Mhm.
sleep or digestive health or stress and anxiety or whatever it may be, having videos and having content on your website for this to educate your community is super, super helpful and super impactful. What do they want? When you say making it easy for them to book, what does that mean? And what does that, maybe not mean?
So it's really helpful if we can have more than, just a phone number or more than just a new patient form. If you can actually have, a booking calendar on your website, that is going to, dramatically increase your bookings because everyone wants, everything to move at a really fast pace these days. So if they can actually go on your calendar and book an appointment for tomorrow, you're going to have a much higher scheduling rate than if they were to wait for a call back for you or wait for a form submission reply there.
We sometimes just design it to be pretty and to, convey our personality, but it doesn't do the things that it's meant to do, because it's meant to educate and it's meant to get patients to actually book into your calendar. And so those are the sort of things that we do with our clients is we'll install a booking feature to where it populates right to your CRM, to where we have all your new patient time slots and they can be able to book it with ease. And even if they can't get in that day or the next day, still the ability to do that is super, super impactful. And then we can start doing things on the backside of that to educate that patient about what that experience is going to look like and how you're going to help them during that visit and the things that you're going to talk about and all of the things that are super, super important to take that patient from, I booked this appointment, to do I actually show for that appointment. Mako, what are the other areas where you see chiropractors failing when it comes to SEO or not fully optimizing, to rank as high as possible, for their practice?
So, one of the biggest things I think chiropractors tend to overlook is their Google business profile. And honestly, this is your digital front door. So, I think it's very important. So, this is a major trust builder. If someone Googles you and sees your recent photos, so reviews, and up to date info, they are more likely to book on the spot. And I like to think of it this way. It's like your website tells your full story and your Google business profile gets them through the door.
And I agree, because we're living in this digital age where, when I first opened my practice, it was different, where you put all these pieces together, but we didn't live in this digital of a world as we do now. And if you think about a client or a patient's journey, the first thing they're always going to do is they're going, they find you online or they're referred by a friend, they're going to Google you and they want to look. If we dive into that, having pictures, that are posted in your Google business profile, what your reception area looks like, what your front desk looks like. Do you have good pictures of you and your team? Does it seem like a warm, welcome, inviting, atmosphere? What sort of services do you provide in the office? It helps to give them the knowledge base to be able to say, yes, they can help, or no, they can't help. But if that information's not there, how are they going to know? Right. So what do they have to do? They've got to pick up the phone and call. But if they're looking, somebody else is showing up in that search too. And so if that practice has those things, you just disadvantaged yourself in getting that patient to walk through the door. And when it comes to reviews, obviously, the more the better. But are there any other points that you think are important when it comes to, Google reviews?
Well, it's basically where the first impressions are made. So it's where decisions happen. So I believe they're very important in that way.
The thing about this is that you can actually create strategies to SEO optimize even your Google reviews, right? So in my practice, I would always ask my patients to describe what it was that they came in with, right? What sort of conditions did they come into the office with? Hey, I came in with low back pain, neck pain, and headaches to Aurora Chiropractic in Aurora, Illinois. And I would ask them, hey, when you write this review, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, here are the points that people want to know. And then I would ask them what the experience was with the team. What services did we offer to you? And how do you feel after now being under care? Because you want to put yourself into the perspective of that new patient who's not been to the office, so they can understand the experience that an actual patient has when they do come in. The last thing that I think is super important here is because Google wants to see consistent work with them, they want to see that you're consistently posting content in your Google business profile. And so one of the services that we do on our SEO, and I was having a conversation actually with a doc yesterday, and he said to me, he said, I'm working with this other company, but we're not seeing any actual new patients come from it. Why is yours any different? And I sat and walked him through that. on a weekly basis, we write content that we post into the Google business profile that actually gets syndicated out to news, TV, and radio stations like press releases. By doing that is we've tied all these really high domain authority websites back to your Google business profile, which now drives your rank up higher and higher and higher. Because if Google is looking for your credibility and they're looking for authoritative content, if you're linked to sites that are getting hundreds of thousands of clicks every single day, guess where you're going to show? Obviously, we want to continue to get our rank to be higher and higher and higher. And so, Allie, where do we typically want to see our clients and our practices that we work with? Where do we want to see them rank, and why is that important?
Right. I mean, typically we want to see you rank within the top three, and that's so important because it's known that, 70% of people are going to click within those top three. Your authority dramatically decreases, and your chances of booking new patients dramatically decreases even at the fourth spot. So we really want to make sure that, we're ranking within the top three below those sponsored posts, right? So I mean, obviously we have Google ads in there that show up and rank as sponsored, but we want to be within those top three right below those.
Sydney, I would ask you, how quickly is this something that can be done in a month, or what does it take to actually do this?
I would say, typically I like to say 3 to 6 months for us to really build traction there. It's not going to be an overnight process, but, we definitely do start seeing results within those first 2 months. And then I would say it's really starting to peak at that 6 month point.
And I think that that's a key point, is that if you want to build a practice that is sustainable, that is a consistent new patient generating machine, that while Facebook ads and Google ads and going out and doing health talks and screenings, those are things that are going to be quick hits and quick wins, right? And you have to stay consistent with those, and there's more work involved, but there's more return. But this is something that if you just put in a little bit of consistent work, and I'm talking every month, maybe 20 minutes, you can start to see really, really big results for your practice. It's not uncommon to see 15, 20, 25 new patients walking in the doors from a website that has been optimized with us every single month. And I was talking with one of our practices the other day, and he's been doing SEO with us for about 90 days. And he said, well, he's like, I was talking with a guy about potentially redesigning my website, and he was asking what sort of traffic we're getting. And he told him that we're getting anywhere between 12 and 24 new patients a month from the website. He's like, well, don't change what you're doing because it's working. And so those are the sort of reaffirmations for me to be able to look and say, if we could add even 12 new patients a month from your website, what would that do to your practice? Because I know what that would do to me monetarily in my practice. And that is, I think, super, super important. So if people want to get a hold of us, or they want to, get on a call, you can get on our website and click the book a call button, and we can talk you through your SEO strategy, what's going on. And one of the things that we do as a free service for anyone looking at SEO is we do a free SEO audit to look at your website, look at the page load speeds, and look at all of the structure of that, as well as look into your Google business profile and where the holes are in your bucket, so to speak, to make sure that your website is as optimized as possible.